Hey guys, welcome back to the Godot Beginner Space Sidescroller series. In this tutorial we are going to be covering part 9, and what we're going to be doing is we are going to be adding the scoring into our game, and we're going to go over like font stuff in this tutorial. But first thing you want to do is head on over to my Google Drive file. I have this in the description. You can find all these assets here. And you're just going to want to download them all. Even if you have already done this, I've updated it with some new stuff. So we're going to need that. Yeah, I might have some other stuff that we haven't covered yet, but we're going to be going over that later. So that's basically what we're going to be doing in this tutorial. Let's get into it. So I'm going to head back over to Godot. Okay, so we need to import our font. So I'm just going to open my Windows Explorer location with it. And I'm going to go into the font folder right here. And I have this pixelated TrueType font file. I'm going to open that. And I don't take this font credit. This was made by someone on somewhere on the internet. I can't remember where I got it from, but it's free to use, so feel free to use it. Again, I did not make this font, so basically, yeah, just feel free to use it. We're going to be using this for the tutorial. You do not need to install it to your computer. We're just going to need it in Godot, so we're just going to need to import that. So before I do that, I'm going to make a folder in UI on Godot. I'm going to make a folder in here. I'm just going to create a separate folder under here. New folder. And we're going to call this folder, let's see, I'm going to call this font. And I'm just going to press OK. So now you can see we have a separate folder called font in UI. So I'm going to open back my file explorer and grab the pixelated TTF file, the TrueType font, and I'm just going to drag this all the way over into font under UI. And as you can see, this didn't actually go into the font folder. So I'm just going to drag and drop this under the font folder. Okay, and now we have our font. So now we have our font imported, but we can't actually use that font data in our game. We have to make a dynamic font in Godot, which is a resource. So just right click on this font folder right here. And let's see, new resource. And in this, we're going to see, search like dynamic font. There we go. Dynamic font. This is the font that we're going to be using to render our data from our other TrueType font. So we're going to need this. So I'm just going to press create. And it's going to be a TRES file. I'm going to rename this to font. Okay, and let's see, we need to change some of these settings. So I'm going to select my TTF file right here. I'm going to select this under my font folder, and you can see that it has anti-aliased on, which basically means it tries to smoothen the fonts, make it look not so sharp by adding kind of like low opacity or low alpha edges to it, and it tries to make it look smoother. But if it's a pixel font that we're going to be using, it needs to look sharp, or else it's going to look weird when we're anti-aliasing it. So I'm just going to turn that off right here, and that should be it. So let's go into our font.tres file right here, and we need to change some of these properties too. So make sure you double click it so then it opens the inspector. And let's see, settings. So for size, It's actually, this is a font that's built for 8. So I'm just going to set to 8 pixels. We might need to change this later, but I'm just going to set that to 8 pixels right here. And if we want, we can do an outline. You can see that most of my assets actually follow this this outline style, so I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to set outline size to like 1 or something. I'm going to hit the color right here, outline color. Instead of white, I'm going to hit the color picker tool. And I'm going to select this color. The color picker tool is right here. It's pretty small, but it's right there. And now I have that exact color. And we don't want filter on. And what we're going to need to do is it has font data right here. This is where we're going to import our TTF file in here so we can actually get the fonts data. So I'm just going to drag that into the font data right here. And now you can see the font right there in action. So yeah, just drag the TTF file into the font data folder. And I don't think we need to change anything in here anymore. Okay, now let's set up our actual score text. So what I'm going to do under canvas layer is I'm going to add a child node right here. I'm going to call this label. So what this basically is it displays text inside of a rectangle, and it's weird how they named it a label, but instead of just normal text, because if you try to search for like text, you'll get text edit, which basically allows the user to edit the text that's already in there, and you'll get this text rich label. But we need an actual label that we can put our text in without the user being able to interact with it. So label is just basically just gonna be like our UI kind of showing text on the screen. So we're gonna be using label, and I'm gonna press the create button. Okay, so in the text, I'm just gonna set the text to like score ... 0. So you can set the text right here. Only issue is this is not using our font that we've specified. It's using like the default font. So we can change that by going down, and all the way under control, you want to set custom fonts right here. You want open that, and you have like a little font box right here. It says empty. And I'm gonna click this little arrow. Actually, we're gonna load that font. And you can just drag and drop it. I'm just gonna try out different methods so I can let you guys know that there's different methods in here. So UI font.tres open. And now you can see that we have our font in here. Score equals 0. And you can see what anti-aliasing is on the font, on the outline, because you can see there's a little bit lighter, different outline, and this actually doesn't happen in the game. It only happens in the editor. Reason being is the text is rendered to the size of the window. It'll be rendered to that size rather than just like the pixelated size, and so the outline will look smooth when you're running the game. So. And I'm actually gonna move this. It's gonna be over here in the corner. And what you can do is you do layout. Let's see, bottom right. And that'll snap it to the corner. And I can set the size too. Okay, so now we have our score little thing here. Problem is, it's on the right, and so this number is going to go off the edge and just keep going if we get a really high score. We don't want that, so we're going to set our alignment right here in our settings from left to right. And now you can see when it increases, it's going to increase to the size of this box. I'm just going to scale up this box a bit so we have a little bit more room for a score. But that's essentially what it's going to do. In our font though, if you go into custom fonts and just click on the font.tres, we can edit the settings again. And now that we can see it, I'm gonna probably change a couple of these settings. So, size. Let's see, and you can set the size, and you can see it kind of gets distorted at some of the sizes because this is a pixel font, and so it needs to be exactly 1-to-1 ratio with the value that you specified before. So the value of the original font was 8, and so when you're scaling it, you're gonna want it to be exactly twice as much, 16. And it won't look deformed. If you do any values below that, it will look deformed. So you do 8, 16, 32, any of those values will work just fine. But when you're finding a font, you want to make sure you find the original size if it's a pixel font. Other fonts might look just fine normally, but if it's a pixel font, it means a lot to make sure you do the right size. And I think outline size looks fine. Yeah, I only do 1. And no, this looks pretty big. I'm good with that. It's pretty easy to see. I'm just gonna try to get this in a place that I like it. Can I not scale that in more? No, I don't think it wants me to. I'll just put it like that. There we go. And we have our font. And I'm just gonna kind of move it around a bit so it looks a bit nicer. There we go. So we have our actual score, and it's not really going to update at all. We can run our game. It's not going to update. I'm just going to press the run button. And you can shoot the enemies, and it won't update. Because we haven't specified that code yet, so it's not going to update at all. Sorry if you can hear my sound from the game. It's because it's coming out of the speakers of the TV, so even when I have the Windows audio muted, it's going through a Steam link, so it's gonna be through the TV. So now we have that in. I kind of want to go over something else right now before we go over adding to our score. You might see in our debugger that we have 6 of these little errors right here, even though they're not errors, they're just warnings. Like values are not used, never used in script. And we don't really care about these errors, and a lot of these kind of is unavoidable when we're programming to the game. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna disable these warnings because we just don't need them. And I actually don't think it's in the. Let me try to find it really quick. Okay, never mind. So you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go project up here. Hit project. And actually, I think you're going to go to editor. So select editor, editor settings. And I'm going to scroll down a bit. Maybe it's in debugger. No. Actually, it might be in project settings. Sorry, I forget where things are at. It happens a lot. It's hard to remember where everything's at. GD script. Oh, okay. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go project settings, go under debug, select GD script, and it'll have warnings right here. Turned off, enable. We don't really care about all these warnings. And I can press close, and you can see they're still up here, but once we clear it and run the game, we're not going to get any more of those warnings. So if that was bugging you, that's how you get rid of them. I thought that might be helpful for some of you guys. So now that's out of the way, we can start adding to our score. But you can see under our canvas layer, I don't want it to be called label. I'm going to call it player underscore score. That's not called label now. Okay, so now this is probably going to need its own script so it can update itself to the actual score. But first we need to actually have a score variable for it to update to. So in our global, I'm just going to search for global. Actually, it's in our game managers. Yeah, it's in global. Okay. So I'm gonna open the global script and let's see. We're gonna want to make another variable in here, and I'm gonna call it variable score. We're just gonna set to 0 when it's initialized. So now we have a score variable in our global scope. So now anything can access the score. So times that we update the score in the game. Well, we're going to update the score whenever a player destroys an enemy. And so far, that's about it. That's the only time we're actually updating the score. And when the game restarts and the player's created, we want to set the score back to 0. We might set up a high score, which will be global throughout the game. But whenever you start the game, the score is going to start at 0. So now we're going to go into our enemy 1. And I'm going to scroll down. When it gets destroyed, we want to add to our score. So I'm going to do it right here before, when we're playing the sound. Global.score. Let's just like add 5. That works. Plus equals 5. And if we run the game, we're not going to see anything because the score never actually updates itself. So we're actually going to do that now. So I'm going to go back to 2D, and on our player score, I'm going to hit the script button right here, add a script. Okay, let's see. It inherits the label, and I'm going to set the path. So hit this little folder icon to see the path. And instead of world, I want to go to, let's see. Part of our UI, and I'm actually going to make a new folder for this. I'm just going to call it player score, and you can find the folder button by pressing this create folder right here. And I'm going to call it playerscore.gd, open, and template. I'm actually going to set it to empty because we always remove that code, but if you set the template to empty, it won't write all that automatic code for you. So that's just going to save us some time. I'm just going to leave the templates at empty because we never actually use it, and we end up deleting it and then adding the functions anyway. So I'm just going to set it to empty, and we're going to press create. Now you can see that none of the code is actually generated. So it extends with the label. Now we need to update it. So function underscore process delta, this happens every single frame, and what we're going to do is there's a little property in the label score if you select that, and it's called text. So you can actually access that in the code. All these properties you're able to access in the code on the inspector. So we're going to set our text equals, see, we want to set it to our score. So you see in the text we have our score, we have score dot dot, and then we have our actual score. That's what we're going to do here. So we want this text to be score dot with the colon, but I want to do a space. So when it adds the 0, there's actually a space in between there, because if we didn't have a space, it would just mash it all together. It would just be like score dot dot, and it would look like this. But I'm putting a space so it doesn't look like that. We can't just type in global. We can't just do this. If we do global dot score, because it thinks that this is text. It thinks that we're just writing this as text. We're not accessing anything. So when you write this, it'll just say score dot dot global dot score. It's not actually going to show what global dot score is. So I'm just going to delete that. The way to do that is you want to do plus. So this adds it to the text. And you want to do string global dot score. And what string does is it converts the score, since it's a number, it converts that to like text, so it can actually add it to the text. So what I mean when it converts the text is, I'm not saying that it's saying, well, I'm not saying if it says that score is a 0, it's not going to write out in text 0 with like ZERO. It's not going to do that when we string it. When we string it, it just allows it so it can actually add this to this text. That's essentially what it's doing. So yeah, it's just adding that to this text. So let's run that, and it should work now. We have it. Score equals 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, and you just shoot a whole ton of guys, and it'll go up. The text is pretty big. You can make it smaller. I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. But and there we go. We have our score in the game. So, I hope you guys like this tutorial. Yeah, I'm probably going to be recording quite a few of these tutorials this week. So plan on that. I hope you guys learned something new, and see you in the next tutorial. Yeah, so see you guys in the next tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. See ya.